everybody. Welcome back to the Amateur Hour Sports Podcast. As promised, Nick Bella's back on the show for another episode.
How's it going, guys?
We also got Colin and Roman on the show for today.
What's up, guys? Let me just clarify that everyone's laughing because I screwed up, so that's why you can hear the laughing in the background.
Yeah, this is not the first time we're recording. Let's just say that. We are going to be talking today about possible quarterback destinations in the NFL this offseason, because there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and there's a lot of quarterbacks who are being made available at the moment. And the first name that I kind of want to throw out there is Cam Newton.
New England.
Cam Newton to New England.
Or Chicago.
I think Chicago, even though they've said that they're like all in on Mitch Trubisky, I think that's just noise. Just, in case they have to keep. Yeah, I think it's straight cap. So I think they should be definitely looking at a guy like Cam Newton, a guy who can throw the ball, a guy who can rush the ball. Mitch Trubisky, I think underrated part of his game, even though he sucks, is that he can rush the ball. Maybe not tremendously, but he can definitely rush the ball. So I think that the coaches there can work well with a guy like Cam Newton.
I think Cam Newton would fit well with that team too. Obviously Cam Newton is a former MVP. We know what he can do, but we also know that he's kind of regressed a little bit in the past couple of years with his decision making.
And injuries as well.
Also injuries, but a big thing with him has been his decision making. Can he get back to the level of where he brought his team to the Super Bowl and was winning MVP and was leading the league in passing yards? If that Cam can come back even just half of what it was, I still think that'd be a win for whoever can get him. And like I said, I think the Patriots could really use a guy like Cam Newton, his dynamic offense.
How would the Patriots get Cam Newton though?
It's a good question. I don't know.
It depends what they do with Brady.
But there's no pieces for them to get Cam Newton.
They have some pieces they could trade. They could trade N'Keal Harry or one of their young guys, maybe some draft picks to get him. I don't know.
The question is, what do the Panthers really need? You think about the fall apart they've had over the last 8 games.
Yeah, that's
coach
huge.
Lost Luke Kuechly.
The huge.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Dante Hightower being traded?
Devontae, ooh,
it's good.
That's a good rebuild.
Yeah, but is Hightower worth it for Cam Newton? If you're Carolina, I think you take that. But if you're New England, I think you try not to get rid of Hightower.
But obviously, there's other essentials involved, such as draft picks. You're not gonna get an early draft pick for Cam Newton because you're trying to ship this guy out of here because Kyle Allen played so well. I mean, at the start of the season, he played very well, but at the end of the season, it was kind of
You got to look at Matt Rule as well coming in. Maybe he wants Cam Newton, even though Ron Rivera wasn't fond of Cam Newton this season. But is Matt Rule different? I think Matt Rule's come out and talked positively about Cam Newton. Maybe that's just noise as well. But I mean, like you said, Allen was playing so well, so maybe they're going to run with him.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think Belichick would want to work with a guy like Cam Newton. I think Belichick wants a new project. I think he could realistically look at some younger options to kind of build up, because I think the Patriots have a couple dark years ahead of them. Their offense is not where it needs to be.
When you consider dark though, that's just them not making the playoffs. They could go 500.
They'll still be average.
They could go 500, and their fans would be like,
Boston fans are so greedy that it's gonna seem like they're the worst team in the NFL, even though they're finishing 6-10, 7-9.
Not awful, yeah.
Yeah, they'll be fine, but Boston fans are so spoiled that they'll be super pissed off about something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a wild card out there for Cam. I think he'd be an interesting fit at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay's got a great defense. Okay offense.
They've got receivers. Mike Evans was tearing it up this season.
And what was their biggest issues? It was turnovers. We saw Winston go 30-30 or something stupid like that.
Perriman.
With a proper QB, they could be dangerous.
Chris Goodwin.
So that's my wild take. I say Tampa
That's not
Bay.
a bad pick. They've got some dogs, but it's the same division though.
It's playing Panthers twice though.
Who
He
cares?
gets his revenge game.
Do you think he wants revenge though? Is he that kind of guy?
I would say you do. This team loved you, and now they're just saying they're basically done with you.
Hey man, that's interesting.
I think I'm going back to the Patriots. Like I said, I think they want a younger guy. I think that they should re-sign Brady, and I think it'd be a good opportunity to draft a guy like Jake Fromm to work under Tom Brady for the season.
Some guy who may not go super high in the draft, but is still knowledgeable. Like Jake Fromm has been a very accomplished quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So I think a guy like Jake Fromm could go in, work under Belichick, work under Brady for a year, and come in 2 seasons, be the starting quarterback, and he could manage the games pretty well there. I mean, Bill Belichick is definitely capable of working with a quarterback and building him up. I think that a younger piece is what he'd be more desirable for him rather than a guy like Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton as well, the Steelers, Roman, your Steelers should definitely be in for a guy like Cam Newton. What do you think about that?
It would be interesting to see how he would work with Tomlin because Tomlin's never had the pleasure of actually having a running quarterback. We had Big Ben, who great arm, but
Big Ben's a great rusher, bro. What are you
chair.
talking about?
Just put it in the pocket for him.
Just sit down and throw heaves.
The ref just brings out a bar stool for him when he snaps the ball.
Don't get me wrong, I love Big Ben. I just don't know how he's gonna come back from this injury, especially because he didn't get hit on the injury. He injured himself by throwing a ball.
I mean,
it's a little worrisome.
I think with Big Ben, I think with Mike Tomlin's like very capable NFL coach. Even though he hasn't worked with a guy like Cam Newton before, guy this knowledgeable about the game. Like look how he's done with the Steelers this season. Did you expect the Steelers to be challenging for a playoff spot?
No, I did not. It's our defense.
So
At the end of the day,
but adding Cam Newton to your offense, an offense that did good enough with guys like Doug Hodges and Mason fucking Rudolph. Yeah, you guys can definitely make some waves with Cam Newton. And your defense so good, you've got the pieces to trade for Cam Newton. I don't have any specific ones, but I think
they could get rid of
possibly Dupree or something like that if they really wanted to. It would be a hit to the defense, but it would be interesting.
And I think James Conner in tandem with Cam Newton would be a little more fruitful for like James Conner because, I mean, look when you've got Mason Rudolph, he's either throwing a little slant or he's giving the ball to James Conner when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think James Conner all of a sudden it opens up a little bit for him because you got to worry about Cam Newton throwing the ball.
That's
a
what I
little
was
bit
gonna
better.
say. I think if they get Cam Newton, that'll give Connor a little bit more wiggle room because then they're not always expecting run, right? They'll sometimes be expecting throw, and then that might drag out some defenders out of place or whatever. I think that would be better for
well,
them.
as on the topic of Pittsburgh, I think it would be a little hard to trade for Newton, my bad. So if I have a perfect quarterback that goes to Pittsburgh, it's Bridgewater.
Yeah,
That's who I want.
Yeah.
Teddy B.
I want, because I don't think he would be that awful to trade for since they have Breeze.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't give up that many defensive pieces. And I think he would fit well with Tomlin.
I think Bridgewater also kind of would want to leave because
they screwed him.
in the final game of the season, they'd already clinched the division. Bridgewater was 1 touchdown away from I think $250,000 bonus. And they didn't put him in until like late in the third. They could have put him in at halftime. They could have put him in to start the game, but basically kind of conned him out of getting that bonus by not letting him play that game to get his final touchdown pass for that bonus. That
could make an argument
that can stick in your mind because look, like your team was not helping you out.
And
why would you want to play for a team like that?
The other thing with Bridgewater is Pittsburgh. The whole organization has already come out saying we're gonna have Big Ben back. So why not bring in another backup that we have that possibility of running that option with? Let's say Big Ben, at most, he's got 1-2 years in him, I think. And then,
Max.
Yeah, but if we start running that option with Cam's going to want to start. We can't run that option with Cam. With Bridgewater, I think we can run it.
I'm going to go with an obvious one. The Bengals. I think they need Joe Burrow.
Well, yeah.
Well, they already said they're drafting him.
Yeah. Bengals going for Joe Burrow.
Yes. I still think they need him.
There's been talk about the Bengals, maybe should they shop that first pick?
You'd be stupid.
If you're the Bengals, you take
is
pick
it
Joe
stupid?
Burrow.
Yes, get rid of Dalton.
But is Joe Burrow like really the first pick that you want? Could you trade for a better quarterback?
But who's willing to trade up for Joe Burrow is the real question. You know, what would you accept as a GM of the Cincinnati Bengals for a first overall pick? Imagine how many draft picks you would get for that first pick.
I don't know, man. Some people are high on Joe Burrow. Adam Schefter was talking about, like, the Bengals are listening to offers. Like,
man, Joel Klatt thinks he's going to be the next Joe Montana. Or his player comparable.
That's absolutely absurd.
I think he's overrated.
I argued with a guy about Joe Burrow in the YouTube comments for the video about Clemson. We talked about the Clemson LSU game. and he said the same thing. I think he's just kind of copying that take that you just said. I can't see Joe Burrow being anything phenomenal in the NFL. I think he can be a good quarterback, but he does a lot of things well, but he doesn't do anything extraordinary. So he can, sit in the pocket and make his throws, hit his open guys. He can be fine. He can be a good quarterback, but he's not going to be anything special. You know what I mean? I think kind of like what Jimmy G does for the 49ers. I think Burrow's going to need weapons
right
around
situation.
him. Yeah. Burrow needs weapons around him. He's not going to make a bad team better.
Okay, but I still think that's a good place to start for Cincinnati. Like, you need some shining ray of hope. You need hope if you're Cincinnati, man. They've been stuck with Dalton for so many years. AJ Green's in and out of the injury. Like, you need some hope in that organization. I think Joe Burrow's the safest pick.
Well, if I'm gonna compare Burrows to anybody, I'm gonna go to Matt Stafford right now.
Matt Stafford.
Stafford. I disagree.
Why? He's got an absolute bomb of an arm. So does Burrows.
I think Stafford has a bigger arm.
Stafford, I disagree. I think
they placed him.
Matt Stafford. Oh my.
Yes.
I don't think so.
I think he's more of a Baker Mayfield kind of guy. I think he's gonna have some struggles, especially in his first couple of years. I think it's really dependent on his offensive coordinator too. I mean, like last year, look at Joe Burrow. He threw 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 13 games. And then LSU gets a new offensive coordinator who just signed with the Carolina Panthers.
He wasn't even a coordinator. He was the assistant to the coordinator. He was the passing coach.
Yes. So now he throws 60 touchdowns. So you think to yourself and you're like, is Joe Burrow really the man for Cincinnati?
That's what I'm saying.
Or do I pick up a quarterback, trade down, and maybe pick up Chase Young?
Or do you maybe try to go for Trevor Lawrence in next year's draft?
Yeah,
that's a hard prediction though. You're trying to find who falls where. That's tough.
That's a hot take though. I think they trade down. Like,
you think they should trade down?
I honestly think
I'd listen to offers. And look, if you get the right package, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, but who would want Joe Burrow? Who would need Joe Burrow?
The LA Chargers. The LA Chargers is one of the big teams. Phillip Rivers is now a free agent.
The Raiders.
Jacksonville.
That's true. Very true.
The Raiders. I mean, what's Carr doing right now?
Broncos.
The Colts is.
I think
that's a good point.
Stuck with Carr.
I think Carr's making $25 million and he's not really doing anything.
He's not living up to it. But I think I like Gruden's offensive style. I think Gruden is a good offensive coach. So hopefully they can find something, like they can work out something there. But I don't know. I think Derek Carr needs more pieces around him. I think he stays in Oakland though. I don't think he leaves.
You have the Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins are kind of set on taking Tua. They know they can get a guy who was kind of tipped for a first overall pick at some points.
Yeah.
I think they'd be satisfied sticking with Tua at 5.
But then why don't you just take him at 1 if you like
Tua at 1?
If some people like Tua over Burrow.
Because I don't think he's going to fall. I think Burrow's going to go number 1.
Well, I mean, at 5, worst case, you're getting Herbert. I don't think that's that bad of a worst case at 5. I don't think...
Or you're getting Jerry Jeudy or something. Oh, God.
I don't think you can be upset with one of Herbert, Tua, or Joe Burrow at number 5. And Joe Burrow's not far.
No, not or even Chase Young in that top 5. If you pick any one of those guys, you're probably not upset.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think the Dolphins are even looking. But yeah, the Chargers, big time. I like that take. The Chargers, big time. She could be looking for a guy like Joe Burrow.
Most realistically, we're looking at Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow. The 5 spot, Miami Dolphins get Tua. And the 6 spot, the LA Chargers get Justin Herbert. That's going to be the top 10 for the quarterbacks, right? That need those quarterbacks.
I think Detroit needs to move on from Matt Stafford.
I agree.
He's been there for way too long, and they've done nothing.
They put no pieces around him, in all fairness. The guy's a good QB.
I think
I don't know if he's a good QB, man.
I think he's a good QB.
I think he's a below par, under average quarterback.
Okay, listen. I know you could make the argument that, Aaron Rodgers has, kind of dominated that division, but, still, the Lions haven't even had, a competitive team. The Lions just cannot stay competitive in that division.
Because the pieces suck around him.
I don't know,
We're
man.
looking at a worse version of Green Bay.
I'm just saying, you look at the one constant that's been there for, he's been there for 9 years now. You look at Matt Stafford.
Time to switch it up.
At the end of the day, you have to make a move, and if they've had Matt Stafford for that long, and they've even extended him, given him big bonuses, and he hasn't brought you to the playoffs, you gotta, come on.
So
that's your quarterback.
So we're saying, Stafford's not the real deal kind of thing, right? So
I've never thought Stafford was the real deal.
So what if we put Stafford on the Patriots? What do you think of that?
That's terrifying, then.
That's terrifying.
I'm scared.
That's a lot better.
That's
a lot better.
That is realistically a guy that the Patriots could get, and I think realistically Belichick could get a good amount of output out of Matt Stafford.
But you just called
Belichick
him below average quarterback.
Yeah, but
below
Belichick,
average in Matt Patricia's
Fair.
like head coach.
Even before
right?
Matt Patricia, they weren't anything special. Like
I still think he would be a much better QB if he had the pieces around him. He has absolutely nothing.
he had Calvin Johnson for a bit. He had
Okay, and they were decent then. When
He's
he
been
had
there-
them, as
he's
soon as he
been
left,
there
they've
long
gone to
enough.
shit.
He's been there long enough that if anything was going to surmount from a Matt Stafford at QB at Detroit, it would have already happened.
even if you're making the argument that they haven't put anything around Matt Stafford, like
They've gone through a million running back changes.
then that must mean something. Like if that system of we need to keep Matt Stafford and get new things, if that's never working, maybe you look to Matt Stafford and be like, maybe this is the issue.
What's the one constant with Detroit's struggles?
Yeah, that's what
over
I'm saying.
This last period of time.
Okay.
Matt Stafford underperforming, not making the playoffs, going below 500. I think they should move on from
So
Matt
who comes in
Stafford.
and does a better job? I'm curious. Who you think should go to Detroit then?
What pick does Detroit have?
Throw a name.
They have the
Detroit
third
is-
pick.
Or even one of the players that are
Third
available.
pick.
Oh, the second.
Maybe draft a
Do this?
quarterback.
No, it goes.
Yeah, they have the third. They have the
They
third.
have the third. Draft a quarterback.
I honestly think that Stafford makes his wide receivers look good. To be honest, I think Stafford is above average. I think that Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones aren't really, the best wide receivers. I mean, beforehand, Marvin Jones was in Cincinnati and he was backing up Mohamed Sanu and AJ Green, right? And now he looks like a number one starting wide receiver with Matthew Stafford. Kenny Galladay, I have no background information. I think he's played on Detroit for his whole career, but he looks pretty good as well, right? So I don't think Stafford's that bad of a quarterback that you guys are putting
Okay,
him
well,
out there to be.
all right.
Would you keep Stafford if you were?
But would you
Detroit?
keep him considering all the losing seasons they've had? Stafford is not getting any younger.
No, I think you can get some trade pieces before he reaches his downfall.
You think they
That's what
can
I
do
mean.
more to keep him in his prime and to keep Stafford around?
I personally think that Stafford can succeed somewhere else, but honestly, I think Detroit does such a bad job drafting wise, and I think picking up free agent. No one wants to go to Detroit. Detroit's probably the worst.
Detroit's probably
city,
the worst place.
probably
It's an
to go.
awful city.
Not okay. Detroit, sports wise, okay.
Sports teams wise.
Sports team wise,
Well,
it's a
and-
sad city.
Well, and actual city-wise, it's a sad city. It's almost as bad as Buffalo, for Christ's sake.
The armpit of the USA.
So,
Yeah.
and I've been there. It sucks. I don't want to go there again.
Yeah.
I don't like Detroit.
Plus, when you're a free agent and you have all these options and you're deciding between a few, no one's picking Detroit. over,
Detroit right now are what Toronto was at the start of the 2010s. Every single sports team sucked and had absolutely no glimmer of hope within their organizations. That's what Detroit is right now. You remember being Toronto fans in the early 2010s? The Leafs sucked. The Raptors were abysmal. The Jays sucked. Now look at Detroit. You got the Pistons really struggling, about to lose their franchise player.
The Red Wings, who suck.
The Red Wings are the worst team in the NHL. They might be one of the worst teams in the history of the NHL. They're the worst in terms of goal scoring, the worst in terms of defense. It's awful. And then the Detroit Lions have the third pick. After what did they start with 2 wins out of 3?
Yeah, so they're 3-12 and tied 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
So and they started
Lord.
They started 2-1.
Yeah. Yeah, they started good.
No hope in that team. Eventually, you got to look at the one constant, switch it up, try something new.
That's what I'm saying.
It's insanity's bane. Trying the same thing over and over, expecting things to change. Clearly, nothing's changed. Basically, they're banging their head against a wall.
That's what
repeatedly
I'm
with Matt
saying.
Stafford.
I think they need to switch.
I think Matt Stafford in a new system, even though I don't think he's been above average at all. I think playing for a team if the Patriots want to go for him, I think yeah. I think you could see Matt Stafford.
What about the
do
Bears?
something. Bears, I think you gotta be on Cam Newton. I even think you could maybe look at a guy like Jameis Winston.
I think Jameis Winston throws too many interceptions for that team.
Well, yeah, but with the right coaching, maybe
and
you
the
can sort
defense that
out.
Chicago has, I think that'd be better than
Could
Tampa.
be. It's interesting to see where Jameis is going to go.
Yeah. Do you guys think Atlanta starts looking at a new quarterback soon?
No, they're in love with Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan, under the right coaching, can get it done. He's
Under
been
the right
an
coaching.
MVP.
He's a centerpiece of Atlanta.
He's
for
got
a
another
while,
3-4
with Julio.
years in him.
Atlanta weren't that bad this year either.
No, they weren't. They had some close games,
Considering
too.
the options Matt Ryan had, and Matt Ryan was injured at some points.
They were such a fluky team.
I have my
though.
fantasy team. Matt Ryan was fine for me.
The
in my
last
fantasy
the
team.
last part of the season though, they did end up like winning some games. I mean, they did start 1-7, and they finished the year.
They,
7-9.
They beat the 49ers. They beat the Saints, if I'm not mistaken.
They almost
Yeah,
beat
they beat the
Seattle.
Saints. They killed the Saints. We bet on it. They killed the Saints.
Well, I know that they definitely beat the Saints. I guess they killed them. Beat the 49ers late in the season. Almost beat the Seahawks. Atlanta can be a decent team. They can be a playoff team with Matt Ryan. I don't think that they're in a position to start shopping. Big one is Jacksonville. I don't know what Jacksonville's gonna do.
I don't know why they signed Nick Foles.
They got Nick Bell's boy Nick Foles out there.
Hey.
Shout out the Eagles
Hey, Super Bowl winner. That's all I gotta say.
and MVP.
And MVP. Yeah.
But he's making a lot of money to play like shit for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now.
I just don't understand it. Like I don't.
Hey man, it's the Minshew magic.
Oh come
Do
on!
they
You can't
stick with
him.
Gardner Minshew?
You're crazy if you stick with him.
Preferably.
What do you do though?
They
you don't,
swapped
you
him out
don't,
already
you
mid-season.
don't you don't really have the money to go out and get somebody because
the
you
Charity.
paid Nick Foles so much money.
Yeah, they,
And their
what was it,
defense
like a
is being
4-year
paid.
deal for Nick Foles?
Do you ride it? Do you ride it with Gardner Minshew? Do you try to figure it out with Foles? I think personally, you stick with who you have. Try to get what you can out of Foles. If it doesn't work out, Minshew's not awful, but
Well,
I don't think Minshew's that bad.
you can go for a quarterback that's a little up there in age, but has shown okay. For an example, it's another hot take: Dalton. You know they're gonna want to get rid of him. Like, just hear me out. If Foles keeps playing like shit that he's been playing, Dalton has shown to be a serviceable quarterback.
He did. Honestly, Andy Dalton did make the playoffs, and he did lead his team to some like playoff berths, and he did play decently well. So
They won that division a few times. In a
that's
hard
such a,
division.
that's such a funny player. Like the Jaguars, it must be
That would
so
just-
sad.
I think
Being
if they
a
got Andy
Jaguars
Dalton,
fan.
that would sum up that entire organization.
I mean,
Who else-
2 years ago, they almost made the Super Bowl.
They did almost make the Super
Lord.
Bowl.
They almost made the goddamn Super Bowl, and if it wasn't for some heroics from the Patriots to come back, they would have been in the Super Bowl. They would have kept Jalen Ramsey probably. We're looking at an entirely different franchise. They
Blake Bortles.
exploded.
I don't think anyone would have thought Blake Bortles would end up in the
That was the other-
Super Bowl.
But just Jacksonville doesn't have the pieces to shop for anybody else. That's why they have to go for a QB that's really not showing much right now, and that's why I say Dalton.
yeah, wait on next year's QB
Yeah,
class.
I
right?
agree.
Trevor Lawrence.
Hey, who knows? They could be last.
Who's gonna be tanking for Trevor Lawrence this year?
Washington possibly.
Dwayne Haskins is
They've
not
got
the answer.
Haskins. Well,
Do we know
me,
what
and
Rivera
Rowan, me and
wants?
Rowan have talked about this. We don't know if Ron Rivera wants to stick with Haskins. It's a new coach. Guy who didn't draft him. Haskins hasn't been anything fantastic. Does Ron Rivera want to live out his Redskins career with Haskins? I don't know.
I think Haskins has some potential. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
you could
for
see,
sure.
You could see him at Ohio State. He's got a pretty
For
good
sure,
arm.
for sure.
He's been throwing well. I mean, obviously it's a rookie slump, right? So obviously it's not going to be like, oh, we're going to go 10-6,
Plus he's on the Redskins,
make the
too.
playoffs.
And they
right?
killed his confidence.
Yeah,
Throwing him in that game, they're getting destroyed. They're like, here, fuck it, go play.
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Redskins are going to keep Haskins just because, like, they can get Chase Young. You're not going for another quarterback
And that's-
right now in the
that's
draft,
terrifying, yep.
right?
Chase Young's
So
sick.
that's realistically what they're gonna do in the draft. I mean, I can't see anything.
I would be
I can't see
surprised.
anything else. I think I don't know. I feel like you got to give the benefit of the doubt for Haskins, and you got to give him another year as the starter. Start turning around the franchise with a guy like Haskins. If it doesn't work out, then start shopping. But
I mean, we saw what Rivera did with Newton. Why can't he do it with Haskins?
do you think any team's interested in Mariota?
He's a good quarterback.
He was really bad this
I
season.
understand.
He was really bad. They had to resort to Ryan Tannehill.
I really want to say New England, but I feel like every quarterback could honestly go to New England
And be fine.
and be fine.
I think Mariota's another one where you don't need to trade a lot to get a guy like Mariota.
No, I think that's a team that's just looking for that second piece. They're not sure about their QB right now. So if I were to throw possibly Indy, but I'm just throwing something out there right now.
Maybe
Jacoby
Indy,
Brissett's
yeah.
there right now.
Maybe
They're
Indy.
unsure of him.
That's a good point.
maybe Indy.
Or even Denver.
Maybe Denver.
Scary-
I think they're kind of
Denver,
locked in.
I don't think Denver
they
are
like
gonna-
Drew Lock though.
Yeah, I
Why
don't-
are they sold on True?
Denver, I don't think
know.
I'd be going for any QBs. I think they're sold on what they got.
Dumb
with
franchise.
Locke. I think the Colts have a Super Bowl caliber roster minus a quarterback.
I don't think
that
Brissett's
team
that much.
in terms of the entire depth, that might be the the best entire roster in the NFL, minus QB. With Andrew Luck, that's probably the best full team in the NFL.
So I got a take for you. If, let's just say for some reason Tom Brady leaves New England, would the Colts be not a perfect fit?
The Colts
maybe.
Fit.
I mean, I don't think Tom Brady's anything special. I've said this on multiple occasions. I'm going to say it again.
No, I agree.
Tom Brady's fallen off. The only reason he gets any sort of yards with his team, I don't care that he doesn't have the weapons. He throws little 5-yard dumps, and his guys run the ball with some good blocking. Tom Brady's not an elite QB by any stretch
He's fallen off.
of the imagination anymore. I think that Tom Brady could do better than Jacoby Brissett, but I don't think the Colts are looking like a Super Bowl caliber team with Tom Brady. I think they can do better.
I think if anything, he goes back home to California. Like you think of LA Chargers. San Francisco already has their quarterback.
Backup Jimmy G.
I guess if you really wanted to be a backup in your
but
final
He's not
year.
going to be a backup.
Who's really going to want Tom Brady, who said he's not going to take a discount this season? Who's going to want